we've just heard is obviously one of Jesus' classic parables. And you would have noticed that it's obviously a product of the Jewish culture, because heaven is seen as being in the bosom of Abraham. And so I think we should see this as a Jewish story that Jesus has used and no doubt transformed. We shouldn't think of a Jewish story like that as only having one form. It would obviously be remembered in many different forms. The absolute contrast of Lazarus and the local rich man is the foundation of the story. And of course, this was a reality that was part of the Israel of Jesus' day. The extreme difference between rich and poor. The sad thing is that we don't notice that as terribly unusual, because it's there throughout the world, not just in our own society. We know that the local man, we know that the rich man was the local rich man. Now, there's quite a bit of significance in that, because Lazarus came to his door. Lazarus came to the local rich man's door. And the fact that he came to his door made him, the rich man, responsible for Lazarus. This was all carefully staked out in Jewish law. This is a very Jewish story, Jewish situation, Jewish teacher. The fact that he came to his door made him very responsible for his feeding and for keeping him alive. This was, something that was fundamental in Jewish law. The poor were to be maintained by the local rich man. The way the story is told, the poor man didn't receive the care and the support that he was guaranteed by Jewish law. So there's a great gap there between expectations. His body was covered with sores, and the dogs were able to lick his sores. Now, we get a little bit obscure here, and we could say, or I could say, you may not agree with me, we could say that the dog licking the sores may be thought of as the dog providing healing for the sores. Saliva of most animals is good for the healing of the wounds and sores of the body. So the dog is caring for Lazarus better than the rich human being. It's a possibility, this sort of interpretation. And we have to remember that Jesus' parables, and this is set as a parable of Jesus, we're to hear it and we're to take from it what we feel we need and what we see in the parable. Jesus never said, "Oh no, you've got the wrong idea to my parable." So I think it's rather a nice way of seeing the dogs, not as just part of the story, but as providing care for the poor man. I think it's a nice little diversion, thinking of the dogs as ministering. And then, of course, in the story, the rich man dies. Well, actually, I think in the telling of the story, the poor man dies. And then, let me get the piece of paper. The poor man dies and he's taken to glory. He's taken to Abraham's bosom. and then the rich man also dies and goes to the other place. This, of course, is a very conventional way of seeing it, and there's no reason to comment further. I'd like to read verse 25. But Abraham replied, yes, son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, while Lazarus received bad things. But now he is comforted, and here you are in agony. That's the next really primary thing, isn't it? That there isn't only a difference of destination, that poor old Lazarus really is punishment. I like to make a point about this. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I like to make the point that this whole story, and this little bit in particular, means it has enormous consequences. It says to us that we are accountable for our actions, and our actions have consequences. It seems to me that many people today live their life as if their actions don't have any consequences, whereas on the ordinary human level, our actions very often have catastrophic consequences if we get things wrong, things fall apart. It seems to me that planet Earth itself is designed to show us that actions have consequences. If we plant good seed in our garden, or we go to Bunnings and we buy good seedlings, and we care for them, then we get a crop. If they're flowers, we will get beautiful flowers. If they're veggies, then we will get something we can eat. If we plant bad seed, if it's mouldy, if it's old, if the seeds are small, we get a poor crop. If we plant nothing, then usually in our garden we get weeds. Now it seems to me, making those three statements about planting good seed, bad seed, and no seed, this is the earth teaching us a moral principle. Actions have consequence. And this, of course, is what our story is about. How people can live on this planet and not see that, I really don't see. Just when you think you know all about the story, when the ending to some extent is very predictable, we have verse 27. Verse 27 is, he answered, then I beg you, Father, send Lazarus to my family, for I have 5 brothers. Let him warn them, so that they will not also come to this place of torment. Quite plain that the rich man is not in some ways a bad man. He has feeling for his brothers. But you know, it's just not enough, isn't it? It's just not enough. And I think that's a very important point. You can always find good things about bad people. Sometimes people who do very bad things, they do things and you think, wow, he really or she, they really are still human beings. And that's right. But the rich man has failed in a very fundamental way. And then verse 29, which I think is a very telling verse. Abraham replied, "They have Moses and the prophets. Let them listen to them." And for a Jew, of course, that's everything. Reading of the law and the prophets, Moses representing the law and the prophets being the later teachers. And I always think, the rich man's a bit cheeky in verse 30. "No, Father Abraham." Abraham, you've got it wrong. This is what the rich man is saying. You've got it wrong. If someone comes from the dead, someone who, I'll read it, I'm not sure of that, but if someone from the dead goes to them, they will repent. That has special poignancy, doesn't it? Given that Jesus is telling us this parable. If they do not listen, and this is the answer of course, if they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be convinced even if someone rises from the dead. And the end is really a clincher, and for the Christian, a rather sad statement about humanity, that humanity knows the story generally of Jesus rising from the dead, but chooses not to believe, or certainly not to act on it. This parable proposes that we live in a moral universe, that good and bad are not personal preferences. We live here and we are expected to choose the good, the generous, the right and the true. If we choose the other path, then there is a consequence, a dire consequence. I can remember when my children were growing up, they were all still at home. I can't remember exactly at what stage. They've been around for a while. And I thought one day, how would I like my children to remember me? And I gave that a fair bit of thought, actually. And I came up with the idea that I would like them to remember me as a generous person, as a generous father, and as a generous guide in our lives together. And I've never ever asked them whether I achieved what I wanted to achieve. But we're all still talking, so maybe that's a good. What we see in this story is, I'm not putting down the story, we see a Jewish story in a Jewish context. And we should expect that, because Jesus was a Jew teaching Jewish people. And the gospel is for the whole world, but this is where it began. And it's interesting to see, because Jesus uses so much new material, it's interesting that he does take a teaching story from the Jewish faith and uses it, and no doubt transforms it. Also, the whole idea of the two paths in life, the right hand and the left hand, one leading to life, one leading to death, is not confined even to Judaism. I remind you that Jesus said, building on these ideas, I am the way, the truth, and the life. To those who say, which way? All ways are the same, and all that, Jesus himself lived out the way of salvation, the Christian way, a way of sacrifice, a way of love and compassion and peace. He trod that way faithfully, dying for us and rising to life on the third day. This is the gospel. This is the good news. This is the way to life. And so today I say to you, choose life and live. Choose life and live.
Hey, how you going? Stuart here. I hope you enjoyed the sermon you've just watched. I just want to take this time to let you know that if you're running study groups in your church or wherever you're watching this and you're looking for some more study materials, I have a couple of studies here for you. The first one is Going for Growth, a study book that was written by the parish here for people looking into how they can be part of growing the kingdom of God in their own lives, but also in the church. It's 7 weeks of studies. And we also have this other one here, Living a Life in Balance, which is, I guess, the next stage of the journey, which is how do we love the Lord our God with all our heart, mind and soul, and love our neighbour as ourselves, and how do we do that in the midst of our very busy lives, which can be very challenging. Once again, it's a 7-week study designed to help you on your journey to finding balance in the way you live your life, between all the demands upon your life, as well as wanting to honour God and live for God. So I wish you all the best with that, and if you'd like to, you can contact the Kawana Anglican Church, Holy Trinity, HTK, and we can send them to you directly. Conversely, if you're watching this overseas, you can get onto lulu.com, and if you type in Going for Growth or Living in Balance, or even my name, Stuart Webb, you'll find those and you can buy them direct from Lulu. God bless you.